Woo, good morning. It's Taco Tuesday, and guess what? It's going to be 63 degrees here today. I might lay outside and get me a suntan. I don't know. Well, other things get in the way, like responsibilities. Let's see who's in here. I'm seeing some new names or someone that's changed their name. First off, though, grab your umbrella because Angel P's making it rain. Melanie said, yes, I'm going to be outside. I saw your weather. It's going to be almost 70 where you're at. Girl, we should meet halfway and get us some margaritas and some chips and salsa. And then, of course, we'd have to Uber back home. Bubby Garcia, glad to see you. Busy in the garden. There's our girl, Poppy Red Mustang. Who's new here except for Walking Dead? Because I'm seeing some new names. Let me tell you what. This case gets our girl, Rexy. It gets her blood boiling. I'm just going to start with an unofficial poll. Just start with some conversation. Do you think Richard Allen did this at all? Or do you think he's just involved? Actually, let me put up a poll. That would be easier. Because I forget what is 1 and what is 2. Can y'all bear with me? I'm sure you can. Here we go. I think the judge did a horrible job. Not that I'm a judge. Okay, I'm putting Richard Allen. Is he ... involved, innocent, / a pansy? The only one that did it. All right. There's the poll. Official poll. It says Richard Allen. Is he ... Is he involved? Okay. Innocent, pansy was set up, or the only one that could have done it. The only one. They would have me hook, line, and sinker on him being the only one if it wasn't for I put pansy. Yeah, okay. Okay, or a pansy. All right, you guys go ahead. You vote away. Look at that. Paper slut. Paper slut is a victim of my typos, okay? Pansy. That's the reason he has the name Paper Slut. Patsy is the word. Well, I'm not going to go back and correct it. Comrie said he was railroaded. He was railroaded. There's just so much going on. The jurors, when they were dismissed, they were sequestered. Their eyes are wide open now, and several of them are mad. They're mad that the detective is speaking out. They're mad that things were put in front of them. I know of at least 2 of them. One of the detectives, once the gag order was released, gave an interview, and we're going to go through it on another channel. And he said a lot of things that don't add up in the old detective world. We have Ron Logan. For years, we've wondered, how the hell is Ron Logan not involved in this? We have all the Odinus. You can't tell me that the Kleins aren't some nasty ass people. Then we go to top cop in Indiana, Doug Carter, who said, all the tentacles. All the tentacles. Well, where are the tentacles? Where are the tentacles? Rexy said, please not Lyon Holman. Yep, he gave an interview. He certainly did. Is Richard Bridge Guy? Is he? Or is Bridge Guy Ron Logan? I know some people say at this point it doesn't matter. I think it does, because this is going to go to an appeal. They're actually going to look for a new trial. Who is Bridge Guy? And out of all of them, how did they, let's just say one person, commit such a heinous crime? Diana Howry said Tony Klein is a demon. Yes, he is. Christina, Madam Secretary, reading my mind. Bridge guy might not even be the voice. When they played it later, I could do better editing. Okay? I could do better editing. And you guys have seen my videos. Okay? You know I don't have tight editing skills. I could have done better. I was freaked out. Hey, Camp. Let's take a second and tell everyone good morning. Glad you're here. And we're going to get to it because you all had a lot to say. I mean, a lot to say with this released confession from Ron Logan that was not allowed to be used in trial. That judge made me so mad. That is not the way we do it. That is not the way we do it. So the title of the show is, how was this not used in trial? Well, I can answer my own question. The judge did not allow the jury to see everything the jury needed to see. Not even my opinion. That's the juror's opinion. Take a second and tell everyone, glad you're here. Glad you made it. Too many things going on here, my friends. Too many. In 2020, there was an interview with Jason Hebert. Abby's mom said that she was a personal friend with Ron Logan for many years. Okay, well, we know that the girls were found dead on his property. To me, this is significant. She said that they worked together in the past. She said she hadn't spoken to him in years, but she knows him. But she didn't think he was the type of person to do anything like this. Now, she had told Hebert that she thought highly of Ron. So why did Ron say he didn't know these families? If he seriously worked with Abby's mom, then he knows the families, or at least one of them. Okay? Now, in 2020, she said none of them had been cleared. None of them. Ron Logan said he was surprised that the girls hadn't been found the first day or the evening. He's the one that explained the 80-foot drop. He had a lot of information for someone that's not involved. Now, some people say he's unreliable. His confession makes no sense. Could be. Could be. But we do know that Richard Allen, who could be the biggest piece of shit in the world, I don't know. The biggest piece of shit in the world. We do know that that timeline does not add up. All right, let's look at the confession. Then I'm going to go to your comments. Shall we now? Here it is on the Crime Lines and Lies community tab. Brooks has got on her Dollar Tree readers. 5/15/2017. Blank contacted the FBI public access line to report a tip in the Delphi homicide. Blank provided the following information. Richie Davis, doc number 114393, is currently incarcerated at the New Castle Correctional Facility. It gives the business address. I don't plan to call or send a Valentine, so I'm not going to go through all that. Blank received a call from Davis advising he is in the same block as Ron Logan, owner of the land where the Delphi homicide took place. Gingrich reported Logan is in prison for parole violation. Funny how that always happens. Logan confessed to Richie step by step of killing the two girls. Logan told Richie how he burned his clothes in a fire pit and where it was located. He used box cutters and struggled with one of the girls and thought that drops of blood from his nose ended up on her clothes. Richie also advised that he killed the older girl first, which has been proven. Blank said Richie wants nothing from this but justice for the girls. Whoa. Now, it was said, and not by me, that Ron Logan knew too much about the crime to not be involved. I don't see how this could be left out. I just don't. Some of this was proven in court. Let's look at some of your comments from this post. Okay. Aggie said, I knew Richard Allen didn't do it by himself. About time someone spoke up. AC said, I think Ron Logan is bridge guy. V. Oakley threw in the F-bomb. She said, OMFG, I knew it. There was just too much about him to ignore. Makes perfect sense. Ashley said, in my opinion, Richard Allen, Ron Logan, Kegan all worked together. Ron passed. He's no longer of this earth, but the other two should still be charged as well. Well, Richard is certainly charged. He's in the big house for 130 years. I don't think he's going to live that long. Kimberly Deaney said, always thought it was him and his people. That summary says the girls were found on his land. Wasn't it that now deceased older man's blood from his nose? A lot more may come out finally. Yep. And then our girl Jules with True Crime Reaction, she said, he's dead. I'm not going to use a legend when I talk about it. He's been on my radar from day one. I just want to know why this wasn't presented earlier. If it was in the discovery, that's my biggest question. Several people answered. Kelly Guerin said, because Judge Gull said no third party allowed. That about knocked me out of my socks if I wore socks. No third party allowed. No. Again, where's the tentacles? Take a second and look at this with me.
This is your guy?
The judge signed the probable cause affidavit for the arrest of Richard Allen for 2 counts of murder. Yes.
Do you think there are other people involved?
I'm not going to go there. Really hope that now that we're in this phase of prosecutorial process and due process, because everyone's innocent until they're proven guilty.
Christine Alaska, she said, I'm not going to go there. She said, equals more work. Rexy said, I think the whole process was illegal. I can't stand lying Doug Carter either. Woo! Y'all got a lot to say. I'm telling you. Rexy won't be diamond paint today. She's going to be chatting. So for those of you that started following when Richard got arrested, you have a lot of catching up to do because a lot went on from 2017 through the trial. There was one scuzz bucket after another thrown out there. One after another. Now then, going back in the archives, doing a deep dive, it has come up again about old Richard Allen, about his mental status considering his confinement. I will say this. You all know I am pro-prosecution, pro-state. This is the only case that I can think of off the top of my head where I go, now what? Are you sure you're not missing something? Are you sure? Look at this with me.
And we go to Carroll County. The defense in the Delphi murders case had its first full day of witness testimony. iTeammates Kyla Russell joins us live after following the case inside the courtroom today and hearing testimony about Richard Allen's condition in confinement. Kyla?
Yeah, Tim. So today we heard from the director of behavioral health from the Indiana Department of Correction. Now, she didn't work directly to care for Richard Allen, but she oversaw a team that helped care for Richard Allen.
Okay, Sarah Walshaw said RA is 100% innocent. RL was fully investigated. Odinism was fully investigated. Why bring things up in trial when they have been investigated and aren't involved? Okay.
Allen, she expressed her concern many times about exactly how Richard Allen was being treated inside of the Westville Correctional Facility, specifically saying, you know, he was in solitary confinement there for 13 months.
Okay, this is unheard of. Whether for his safety or not, to be segregated is one thing, but solitary is totally different. Okay, I've watched enough movies to know when they throw you in the hole, it's not anything that gets someone better. All right. V. Oakley said it perfectly. I'm pro real evidence. Huge difference. Maybe things would be different if the trial had been televised. Maybe we would have a different understanding of this. What is out, the transcripts and everything, I'm just like, I thought I had good reading comprehension. I really thought I did. 13 months in solitary, segregation I get to keep someone safe. But you're going to drive anybody out of their mind. And again, he could be the biggest piece of shit in the world. That timeline is impossible for these murders. Impossible.
And she said, you know, she didn't know why that was the case and that it would certainly contribute to the decomposing of an inmate's mental health. Now, she also said that it's the department's policy not to hold an inmate for over 30 days in solitary confinement if they have a severe mental illness. She also said she agreed with Richard Allen's lead psychologist, who we heard from just a few days ago, that even if Richard Allen was faking those concerning signs of psychosis, that it ultimately did not matter because it got to a point where he was truly deteriorating. Now, also, she said she was particularly concerned about Allen being taped on video at all times within his cell and also every moment outside of his cell there at Westville.
And Kyla, there are questions about a video the defense wants to show the jury.
Sal. Hey, Sal, I've missed you. Wait, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it was PC, not solitary. There's Gen Pop. There's segregation or protective custody. Then there's another one for someone that's on suicide watch. And then there is solitary, which is what they call the hole. And if the rumor is correct, I will be, well, I can't say the first one in line because I'm pretty damn lazy. John Grisham is doing an entire book about all of this. Now, I don't know if he's going to change the names to protect, law enforcement. And again, I want to remind you that on my poll, instead of Patsy, it said innocent, a pansy. I see a lot of people are voting for pansies. I'm not talking about the flower. That's my typo.
Yeah, there was this interesting back and forth between the prosecution and the defense today. You know, the defense wants to show this video of Richard Allen, I guess really a series of videos of Richard Allen inside of that Westville cell and also outside of that Westville cell at the peak of his mental health crisis. And I mean, it was an interesting kind of thing. There were several sidebars, and the prosecution was clearly upset by them trying to admit that into evidence. We had several breaks, and ultimately it looked like Special Judge Frangel was going to admit at least part of that video, maybe some of it without audio. But then after the prosecution sort of asked a few questions to the defense's witness, it was revealed that, you know what, the video did not have the timestamps that Special Judge Frangel needed to be able to admit it. So
Okay, maybe that's fair enough. She wanted the timestamps. I understand where some of these jurors are coming from. I do. Because once they're out and they're allowed to use Al Gore's internet and look things up, one juror said my eyes were wide open and he was mad, especially when Detective, I think it's Holman, am I saying it right, was talking to podcasts. Because he's like, that is not what I got from him when he was on the stand. At all. He was furious. So now you have jurors that are struggling with their decision. You have Doug Carter that says this case has many tentacles. Ron Logan is dead. Ron Logan said he didn't know the families, but he knew Abby's mom. There's no way he didn't. And I'm loving the conversation going on in here. So I'm going to put the link up. Don't be shy. I don't bite. And even today, my cat doesn't because he's not feeling well. Come up and let's have a convo, please. I especially would like to hear from Rexy because this case pisses her to no end.
the defense indicated they likely will try to show that video later on in the trial, but so far we haven't seen it, and we likely will here in the coming days.
All right, News 8's Kyla Russell, thank you.
The only solitary I want is in my swimming pool with the sun on me, listening to Huey Lewis in the news, and drinking some box wine. Okay, Rexy said, I can't, I'm blowing my nose and coughing too much, LOL. We have a lot of people sicky wicky lately. Let's get some good get well vibes to all our friends that are sick. All right. Again, loving this conversation. Sarah said, how is the timeline impossible? Is it because the phone didn't move? The phone could have been thrown to the ground way before the killings happened. I think there's several interesting conversations to be had about this. I truly do. And don't be shy. Grab the link because I really want to hear what everybody thinks about this. A lot of things do not shock me when it comes to these crimes. Not that I'm desensitized. It's just kind of like, yeah, oh shit. We've seen that before. This is totally different.
Day 16 of the Delphi murders trial featured more testimony about Allen's state of mind when he confessed over 60 times, and the jury could hear from his wife. Court TV senior producer Barbara McDonald has been covering the trial and joins us now live with a debrief.
Good evening, Michael. That's right. I was in court today for some explosive testimony as we near the end of the defense case. Stacey Eldridge, a former FBI forensic examiner who now works as an adjunct professor at the university level and has her own practice, said that she examined the Indiana State Police phone extraction data from Liberty German's phone, and she says it reveals headphones were plugged into that phone at 5:45 p.m. on the...
Okay, listen to these times. I'm going to start it, go back a little bit. And I'm going to start writing these times down.
phone at 5:45 p.m. on the night of the murders and unplugged at 10:32 p.m. This does not fit the timeline for Richard Allen. The state alleges he was.
It does not fit the timeline. No one is going to come across a phone near two dead girls, screw with the phone, and throw it back down.
Already on his way back to his car at 4 p.m. She was asked, why would somebody plug headphones into the phone? She said you could stop sound by doing so. She said there was an incoming call milliseconds before that action was taken. Then after she was done testifying, we took a short break, and the defense called Indiana State Police First Sergeant Christopher Cecil, who did the initial phone extraction and analysis on Liberty German's phone. He had testified previously. He couldn't explain what that event was. He said, though, on cross-examination, that after listening to Stacey Eldridge's testimony, he did a Google search and determined that water or dirt inside of that phone jack could register as headphones.
I see what they're saying, but it doesn't make me feel better when you're convicting someone to life in prison and you say, well, I did a Google search. That's the kind of shit Daisy does. Well, if you just Google it, you can find out. I did a Google search, and it turns out that if there's mud in there, it could be that. Could be doesn't explain the timeline. We have Kristen backstage. Let's see what she has to say. Hello, Kristen. Haven't seen you in a while. Glad you're back.
How are you?
Good.
I actually think that it's a very sad case for the families. I don't know much about the case. I just
Well, damn. Okay.
the timeline. He did it. I mean, I believe he did it. So
By himself? That's the question, because I do believe he's involved. I mean, by himself.
yeah, I think he did it by himself.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's look at the poll, how we're doing. Richard Allen involved, 34%. Innocent / a pansy, that's my typo, 58. The only one that did it, 8%. So you're in the 8%.
Yeah.
I love these conversations. I do.
Well, the only reason I think he did it is because if you think about the Idaho 4, he did it all by himself, and I always wondered how he did it too. Like, especially with the couple, you know, how they were both laying next to each other. How did he get both of them? But you know, he did it. So,
Well, he hasn't been convicted yet. So I am really curious as to see how the state's going to put all this together. So, I mean, it's not proven yet. But
correct.
I do follow the Goncalves family, and, you know, they are, you know, adamant he is the only one.
He's
So
only.
he hasn't even been tried yet. So I really don't want to compare the cases yet until that trial is over, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course. You're definitely a professional about this.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, but thank you.
You're
take
welcome. You're welcome. I also put you on the Turtle Island. I voted for you. He said we haven't had anybody for Brooks. I said I'm gonna call every single night too.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Somebody brought that up to me the other day. Hey, y'all, don't let me get kicked off Turtle Island. It's about time I win that shit.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it. It's every Thursday. I
Mhm.
believe they started at 10 o'clock.
Oh, gee, see, I'll be asleep, so you guys have to tell me about it on Friday. Hey, well, thanks for coming up, Kristen.
You're welcome.
Oh, sorry, she said miss you. I miss you too.
Defense redirected by saying you had 7.5 years to return this information. He said correct. And Jennifer Auger rather said, and you're coming in here after a Google search. And he said, correct. Again, the defense could.
Okay, that's what I want to talk about. They said you're really coming in to court to look at a jury, to look at a judge with a Google search. With a Google search. That really got me going too. Okay? That really got me going too. I'm like, a Google search? What's next? You going to put Daisy on the stand? Listen to that again. You come here with a Google search to disprove what one of my favorite words, an expert, said.
To return this information, he said correct. And Jennifer Auger rather said, and you're coming in here after a Google search. And he said correct. Again, the defense could rest its case as early as tomorrow.
Thank you, Jean Ellen. Baby kisses. You said swollen. Gross. What's swollen? Someone got a sore throat? What's going on? What's swollen? Thank you again, Kristen, for coming up. Still waiting on Rexy to clear her throat. Now let's get to Ron Logan. This is from years ago. Years ago. Baby kisses says RA's face. Yeah. V. Oakley said her lady balls are swollen. Girl, it's not even Valentine's Day yet. What you rubbing down there? Girl, you better calm down. Damn, V. Oakley. Let's get to Ron Logan.
Made this tragic discovery. The Delphi community has been coming to terms, I should say, with a painful reality. Eyewitness News reporter David McAnally went back to the scene of the crime today, where neighbors still don't understand how this could happen to two young girls. Dave?
That is one question that will never be satisfied for me. Why did this happen to these beautiful girls? Why? And don't tell me it's just because they were just out there on the bridge. There's a lot that led up to it. And a lot of it has to do with the Klein family. Many people were using the Anthony Schatz account.
As police continue a very methodical investigation here, going down every road in the search for clues, some folks who live near the crime scene, they fear that their road will never be the same.
I couldn't imagine. What's the population? Like 3,000 people? Bad girl with a super cool avatar. Look at that. I need that because my first name starts with a B. KK is the common link. I agree. I do. And every time over the years I brought that up, somebody would come in. I actually missed the chick because she was pretty cool. She would come in and just tell me what a raving idiot I am, saying he has nothing to do with it. I mean, I'd get my ass handed to me every time. How is he not connected? How was he not connected?
The crime scene Thursday, a place property owner Ron Logan knows well, but never thought he would know for something so tragic.
I can't really wrap my emotions around it. It's so mind-boggling.
Ilyanka wasn't Kegan's dad. That would be Tony. To understand Kegan, you have to understand Tony. And anytime you want, we can do a good old-fashioned Crime Lines and Lies deep dive on Kegan and Tony. Yes, he was friends with Ron Logan. Now, according to Ron Logan, he lied to investigators, okay? Knowing that two girls were missing. He probably already knew they were murdered, but I can't get off on that one because he's not here to defend himself. He said he was in Lafayette getting exotic fish. Then it turned out that he made that up because he had a DUI and wasn't supposed to be driving. Now, do you really think that detectives, FBI, not Idaho State Police, sorry, the troopers in Indiana, do you really think they were going to stop looking for Abby and Libby because old Dirty Ron was driving without a license? No. He made the whole thing up. Then he said he was in his house training the fish. Okay. I don't exactly know what it takes to train a fish. No idea. I mean, don't you put them in the water? You sprinkle some food? I mean, was he teaching them soccer? Did he take their bowls outside and teach them how to shoot hoops? How are we training a fish? What are we doing here? But Ron worked for SeaWorld? Exactly. Sec to no one. Fish aerobics. Yeah. No reason to tell them that you went to get exotic fish and train them all day because you were scared that they would know you were driving and you had a DUI. That wasn't what they were there for.
I haven't really caught up. It hasn't caught up with me yet.
Up and down the hills, across that bank, now circled with crime tape, his son grew up playing here.
Never in your wildest dreams do you think that he comes down here to play, he won't come back home.
He and his friends grieved for the victims, Liberty German and Abigail Williams, both 13.
That's why we come back. He goes, I want to show you what it looks like.
He also made, through the rumor mill, some really creepy statements at their wake.
You couldn't carry someone up and down these hills, or it's hard to walk by yourself.
We've been able to identify almost everybody else that's been on that trail, and this gentleman has not been identified, and we want to know what he saw, what he might have seen on the trail. Did he see somebody else that maybe some of the others didn't see?
The sheriff.
They damn sure went ahead and locked up Ron Logan for a parole violation, though, didn't they? He confessed to their murders. He was the one that said his blood from the nosebleed was on one of the girls. To be quite honest, Bridge Guy looks a lot like Tony Klein to me. Again, not saying that Richard Allen isn't involved. There's got to be more. You have a town of 3,000. It took you, 7 years to find your suspect in a town of 3,000? Just with the smallest law enforcement in America, you could have, I'm not saying interrogate, you could have interviewed everybody in the town several times and got this figured out.
Department says the trail photos of a man released Wednesday have brought in about 200 tips, and they're checking every one of them, they say. Police want to talk to the man because he was on the trail about the same time as the victims.
I think they feel confident that we're going to get this guy or guys that were involved in this.
Guy or guys. Now, let's flash forward. WIS out of Indianapolis, Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter, in an interview, said his agency is still looking for others involved in the Delphi murders. Plus, he said tips on the case are still coming in. Why did you drop all that like a hot potato? Why? The reason I think Richard is involved somewhere is because this is a guy that never really gave a shit about anything in his community. He went to work, he played pool, he drank some beer. This looks like him to me. This lady put on Twitter, now known as X. She said this dude was apparently lurking around the press conference. Kind of weird. Could be an innocent guy. Could be some bad guy. Just stay alert. Because he's dressed like a cat burglar, okay? He's dressed like Brian Kohlberger in his supposed ninja outfit. This guy was not really into community activism or anything like that. And that looks just like him to me.
And I think they're feeling confident that it's going to happen sooner than later.
Back at the crime scene, hoping for answers.
This place is never going to be the same. It'll never be the same, will it?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody will be.
My
They'll
son-
be very vigilant now when from here on out when they come down here.
All right, that's David McAnally tonight in Delphi. Now, here's another look at the man police are so desperate to talk to. Again, they have not said he's a suspect or a person of interest. Instead, investigators believe that he is the only person they haven't identified who was in the area at that time.
Second to no one said no, their community is forever changed. Forever changed. My husband's a truck driver. I was on the road with him taking a trip one time. We went by the Delphi exit. You could turn off, you could go into Delphi. No, we didn't go. I got the weirdest chill over me. You know, when something kind of, what's the word, freaks you out? Like, well, the hair on my arms started standing up. I was freaked out. I really was. And in a town of 3,000, with the big fat question mark, are other people involved? I personally would not feel safe. I just would not feel safe. No way. Especially when Doug Carter confronted KK and said, your Dropbox has opened up the biggest CP ring in the state of Indiana's history. I wouldn't feel safe. No. No. All right. This is what they dropped on us last week. Oh, Ron. Now, on one hand, they say Ron confessing to this inmate and possibly others, irrelevant, doesn't matter. But they say that Richard Allen, after being in solitary with no one to talk to for 13 months, his is perfectly fine. It can't go both ways. It can't go both ways. It says on April 3rd, 2023, Richard Allen made a phone call to his wife, Kathy. In that phone call, he admitted several times that he killed Abby and Libby. Investigators have the call transcribed, and the transcription confirms that Richard admits that he committed the murders of Abby and Libby. He admits several times within the phone call that he committed the offenses as charged. His wife, Kathy, ends the phone call abruptly. Okay, the problem is there's no details. Yeah, I did it. There's no detail. There's no detail. Ron Logan gave detail.
News in the Delphi murders case. Attorneys for convicted killer Richard Allen have filed new motions to try and clear their client's name. A jury convicted Allen in November of killing Abby Williams and Libby German in 2017. Now, the motion of errors filed today questions the timeline for these murders, with new video placing the white van that spooked Richard Allen before the murders at the crime scene 15 minutes after the murders. Now, attorneys also claim that Allen's Sixth Amendment rights were violated when his attorneys weren't present at an initial hearing in 2022. And the defense is also disputing evidence from Libby's cell phone after testimony claimed the state found someone was plugged into Libby's phone after the murder and that they didn't bring it to jurors. But
Do you blame the jurors for being pissed about that? about how many things they weren't allowed to see. A few weeks ago, we talked about the jurors in the Leilani Simon trial, to where now they're out and there was things that they didn't know that they felt like they should have known, because they were about to put that raging lunatic of a mother in some like mental hospital. That's what they were fighting about. That's what they were arguing about. That's what they were discussing. I prefer to say discuss. They said, had they known other things that they found out afterward, there wouldn't have been a problem. So the disputed phone evidence, the new interviews by the detective have really got the jurors upset that they possibly made the wrong decision. I feel bad for them. I feel bad for them.
Biggest bombshell revealed this morning, another jailhouse confession for somebody who attorneys claim was a prime suspect from the very start.
And Dan, all of that really revolves around Ron Logan, the man who owns the property where the girls' bodies were found. And this evening, Fox 59's Max Lewis breaks down what was allegedly said inside of that jail cell in 2017.
The defense called it newly discovered evidence that is so significant and entitles Richard Allen to a new trial. It's a confession to the killings of Abby Williams and Libby German made by Ron Logan, who owned the property where the girls' bodies were found.
And in my opinion, this should have been turned over by the prosecution to the defense.
The confession apparently took place inside the Newcastle Correctional Facility, where Logan was serving his sentence for a probation violation. It's there that he got to talking with another inmate in his cell block, Ricky Davis. In a letter...
Oh, look at Ricky. Woo! What's he doing? Giving Wade Wilson a run for his money? Damn. God. Tell you what. I wonder how many of those neck tattoos he got in jail, or how many he went and paid for with his income tax return, or got for his birthday from his mom. I really need to know.
Place inside the Newcastle Correctional Facility, where Logan was serving his sentence for a probation violation. It's there that he got to talking with another inmate in his cell block, Ricky Davis. In a letter signed by Davis in June 2017, he recounted Logan's confession, writing, quote, "He told me he was the one who killed those girls."
Now, why would Ron Logan be in there for a probation violation? Okay, he's not new to the system. He's not new to it. He knows he's not going to be there for long. Hell, he's in county. He's eating bologna sandwiches and half an orange. Okay, he knows it won't be long. So for the probation violation, he knows he's not there for the rest of his life. Why would he say this? He told me he was the one who killed those girls, that it got out of hand. He walked with them in the woods to his property. The girls wanted to turn back, and he said something about calling the police.
That it got out of hand. He walked with them in the woods to his property. The girls wanted to turn back and said something about calling the police. Logan apparently went on to say that he, quote, grabbed the youngest girl to reassure her.
See, this is detail. This is what we did not get from Richard Allen. And I think one thing we can all agree on, again, I love these conversations that we have here. Again, don't be shy. Grab the link. Come up. Uli girl, this is your state. Come on up. I think one thing we can agree with is this case was a mess. There was a lot of missteps, mistakes, and things that shouldn't have happened.
It was okay. However, they panicked, and he also panicked. Logan indicated he ended up cutting the oldest with a box cutter. He went on to...
This is what gets me about this. Okay? Now, he said this years before we heard about the box cutter. How would he know that a box cutter was involved in these brutal murders? How would he know? It's a very unusual weapon to use, if you want to know the truth. That's a pretty good guess. Okay? How would he know? I mean, to me, that's pretty significant.
The youngest girl to reassure her it was okay. However, they panicked, and he also panicked. Logan indicated he ended up cutting the oldest with a box cutter. He went on telling me that he killed both of them because it was taken too far. At the time of that supposed confession, the fact that the girls' throats had been slit and that a box cutter was the likely murder weapon were not public knowledge.
They were not. And it was said in, I have to go back to my notes, and I got tons. It was said a long time ago, let me put it this way, that Ron Logan knew things that only someone that was involved would know. I would have chalked this up to bullshit. I really would. Because talking to dirtbags in the jail really never convinces me. It just really doesn't. It's almost like they're trying to brag who's the biggest piece of shit, okay? But how did he know about the box cutter? That was not public knowledge.
In fact, it wasn't until the trial late last year that the forensic pathologist who performed the autopsies testified that a box cutter was the likely murder weapon.
Now, looking back, they're able to say, well, with that box cutter information, that opened the door. Once they put box cutter and they had a suspect who confessed to using a box cutter, we definitely should have been able to get into at least this other suspect.
However, Judge...
How did he know who died first? I mean, how did he know? How does the timeline not add up? I do understand that one detective did a very thorough Google search, and I really appreciate Googlers. I love it. I love people that play doctor on Google, lawyer on Google, like me yesterday, veterinarian on Google. I love it. But you don't get on the stand and say, well, I did a Google search. I'd have been like, get the hell out of here. Go back to the police academy. Don't bring me a damn Google search.
Well, with that box cutter information, that opened the door. Once they put box cutter and they had a suspect who confessed to using a box cutter, we definitely should have been able to get into at least this other suspect.
However, Judge Fran Gull ruled that the defense team could not put forward any theories about other potential suspects in the...
Okay, Judge Gull said no third party, no theories, which in some courts they would call that reasonable doubt, but this is confession that Ron Logan gave to someone in the jail that this man reported in 2020. I can tell you right now, in 2020, if it came out that Ron Logan, as he was serving a parole violation, then nobody would have been shocked. I don't think one person would have been shocked. So we're not talking about a theory, we're talking about a confession.
The early days of the Delphi investigation, Logan was a prime suspect, so much so that the FBI was able to secure a search warrant for his home. It's unclear if they ever found anything connecting him to the murders, but Allen's attorneys say that confession and the details in it exculpates Mr. Allen and would probably produce a different result at a retrial.
Logan died of COVID back in 2022. The prosecution has yet to respond to these claims.
Convenient. Ron Logan died of COVID in 2022. Jeez, these poor girls. These poor girls. Let's do a FOIA. Let's see what they've got. Hell, Richard's down the river for 130 years. Why not? Would you guys be interested in that? At this point, there's no gag order. Nothing can be sealed. Let's do it.
Or any of the others made in these filings. Our legal expert told us that right now it is too soon to tell how or even if this will affect Richard Allen's conviction for the murders. In the newsroom, I'm Max Lewis, Fox 59 News.
Truth is, it might be denied since they're probably going to ask for a new trial. But no shocker here. Beigefield dug up the ex-girlfriend of Ron Logan's. Woo! No shocker that an ex would be like, yeah, he could have done it. He could have done it. I always wonder when these people come out of the woodwork, where were they in the beginning? This could have been the nicest lady in the world that just got a bling, bling, bling on the phone, and she answered, "Hi, this is News Nation. Would you like to talk to us about Ron Logan?" Anyway, no surprise that an ex would say, "Oh yeah, that piece of shit, yeah, he could have done it. Not like he can do anything to me. He's dead. You know, he died of COVID in 2022. God damn. Help me. Help me."
Connie Dillman joins me now live. Connie, thank you so much for...
Hold on. We have breaking news from Muir Camp. Hold on. You guys ready for some breaking news? Holy shit. What's going on in this world? This just into the CLL news desk. Meerkamp said she watched a show last week with Beigefield and she wasn't wearing beige. Woo! How the hell did I miss that? I thought I was in a different universe one time when I saw her in orange. You want to hear something? Our girl True Crime Beat, you know, like around here we call Ashley Banfield. We call her Beigefield because she's always wearing beige. Here comes Kool-Aid Man, True Crime Beat, walking up to the News Nation booth at CrimeCon, and she goes, "Me and all my friends call you Beigefield." I'm like, "You told her that?" She goes, "She thought it was funny." I'm like, "Well, shit. Did she take you out for drinks afterward?" I was like, "Damn, that's supposed to be our secret."
Joining me as a guest tonight, I want to go back to the comment that you made that as soon as you saw the video and heard about Bridge Guy, you knew it was Ron Logan. Tell me why.
I know the way he walks. You know.
Okay. So she told the police, she goes, "I know how he walks." I feel bad for this lady. I really do.
I just had an intuition, you know, when I heard, you know, that they were murdered. It's just, you know, you know, it don't go away, no matter how long ago it was. You know, I had a very volatile relationship with him. You know, it's hard to get away from him.
This conversation is screaming domestic violence to me. She was trying to get away from him. Trying to get away from him. Good morning, Joy Callie. Trying to get away from him. Criminal Med said, "I believe her. I do too." Y'all are going to be in trouble with Angel P because she is the thumbs up girl. So she's going to stay on you guys until everybody, all 221 of you, hit the like. You don't want her on your ass.
You know, he talked to me, and you know, he was very aggressive and abusive and manipulative, and you know, it's not something I really want to relive, but I just know his nature. I know his property. You know, it's just. I'm just going with my gut feelings. Just the kind of person he is. You know.
This kind of stuff is what pisses me off to no end. Ilyanka, is reading my mind. The police asked people to focus on how Bridge Guy walks. She did. She told the police. They didn't pursue this. Even with a confession in jail, they didn't pursue it. We're not going to know everything until everything is out. Okay? I feel bad for this lady because, you know, when you're caught up in something like this, not that I would know, you're going to feel some sense of responsibility that you didn't do enough.
It's just, I'm just going with my gut feelings, just the kind of person he is, you know. He manipulated a lot of people. He manipulated my family, and it was hard to get away from him. And just, it's really hard.
I imagine. Baby kisses. Said, how did her and Ron Logan meet? At a bar? Certainly not at church. I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those hookup sites like Christian Mingles, where dudes like Ron Logan go to find women to abuse. If you've met your mate on Christian Mingles, it's not about you. I've just heard some stories. Okay?
Can I ask you, did he ever have any interest in young girls? Did he show any predilection towards young girls when you were his girlfriend?
Yes.
Oh, shit. All right. I got to go back. All right. Damn it. Here we go. Here we go. He did show a proclivity to young girls.
Towards young girls when you were his girlfriend?
Yes. He sold a horse to a girl that didn't live too far from there, and she was 13 actually. And he was touchy with her, and she'd bring her horse, ride her horse over and stuff. And I just thought that was inappropriate. But I think I know we've gotten fights over that, you know. It's like, oh, I ain't hurting nothing. I'm just trying to help her out. And, you know, I don't know. It just didn't feel right with me.
Okay, for those of you with daughters, and yes, she did tell the police. Would you want Ron Logan, Kegan Kline, Tony Kline, Richard Allen, or any of the Odenists helping out your 13-year-old daughter? I'd be like, no, get the hell away from my child. But you never know in these situations. You just never know.
And what about telling the police about all of this? Like when you saw the video, heard.
Walking Dead said no, not even my 6-year-old. Walking Dead, as if a 6-year-old would make it that much better. Okay? I'm not saying a 6-year-old would be better. Have you had your Wheaties today, Walking Dead? 6 years old would be worse. Forgive her. She's new here.
I don't know. It just didn't feel right with me.
And what about telling the police about all of this? Like when you saw the video, heard about Bridge Guy, got that sinking feeling that Bridge Guy was your ex-boyfriend, Ron Logan, did you tell the police?
I did. I called in. I called in 3 or 4 times, actually. I called in before I even seen the picture that's showing right now. And I know the way he walks, and I know he's built, and to me, that it looked exactly like him. I mean, even when I seen the voice, you know, it sounded just like him.
What was the reaction from the police? How did they receive your information?
Actually, when I called in the tip line, I didn't get a call back. So I reached out to our local sheriff's department, and actually, they came here. They heard my story, and they were in touch with Indiana State Police. The Indiana State Police asked them to bring me in if I didn't have a ride. I told them that I could take myself there, and I did. I met with them that very same day, and that was actually March 3rd. It was on a Friday, and then on March 6th is when they brought him in and questioned him, and actually before they even did probation violation, it was an obstruction of justice. Is what they had brought him in on.
Okay, so the probation violation, which if I'm reading it correctly, is in connection with the DUI. Okay? But the violation of probation had nothing to do with DUIs, driving, or anything. It had to do with obstruction of justice. What justice did Ron Logan obstruct? Think you must have got lost? Look at your picture. You look gorgeous. She gifted 5 Crime Lines and Lies memberships. I'm going to go ahead and bet that neither Brit or Walking Dead gets one. Not because I don't want them to get one, but because their lottery odds around here are not that good. Look at that. Ginger got one. Jessica Davis. Missy RN. Needs some Z's. Got Lockered Nan. Missed you. I don't know what to do about that. Let's go back to this because Baby Kisses had a question about him with the dog.
The Indiana State Police asked them to bring me in if I didn't have a ride. I told them that I could take myself there, and I did. I met with them that very same day, and that was actually March 3rd. It was on a Friday, and then on March 6th is when they brought him in and questioned him, and actually before they even did probation violation, it was an obstruction of justice. Is what they had brought him in on, and it was because he was a felon and he had guns. So I think that you need to know that too.
One other question for you. This inmate says that Ron Logan confessed to him while they were jailed together. You know Ron Logan before he died. Is he the kind of person that would have confessed something this terrible to a fellow inmate, both incarcerated together?
I think, once you're off of alcohol, you dry out a little bit, you can get a guilty, you needed somebody to talk to. I think probably even broke from that, and maybe he trusted that guy. He wasn't going to be out of prison for quite a while. So, what did he have to lose? He's 7 years old, he was bragging. Even the scenes and stuff where he took news media too. I think he was showing him exactly what he did. Where it happened. It's eerie to me. I think it's eerie to everybody just the way he explained it. It's calm and cool.
Thanks for watching.
Bless her. Bless her. I'm going to put the link up if anybody wants to come up and talk about this because it's a messy mess. It's a messy mess. Most of the times we go through trials, we get to the end of a case, and it's pretty open and shut. It's like, oh, I see. I see what you're talking about. I think the FBI in this case should have had way more involvement than the state of Indiana. That is just my opinion, though. All right, back to the timeline. Kat's gifting Crime Lines and Lies memberships. Sarah Wood. Borders Girl. Life is Beautiful. Too Much to Handle. Sagittarius. Emma Rising. Rhonda. Girl. Dawn K, Riley's nanny, Swamp Side Chick. Now that's a cool name. Whew. You know, Britt, you and Walking Dead have had like 4 years to save up $2, but we're trying. We're trying to help you. I'm telling you, we've been trying to help you. Let's look at the timeline. You girls know I'm just kidding, right?
Allen's lawyers say is true. Is it enough? And for that, I turn to Lee Wallace, a trial lawyer with 30 years of experience in trials, who's known to her thousands of YouTube fans as Lawyer Lee. Okay, Lawyer Lee, your hot take on this. It's a motion to correct errors as opposed to a motion to dismiss. Is it just semantics, or is there some significance to that?
Well, typically a motion to correct errors isn't exactly where you would expect to see these arguments. It's typically sort of used to when there's brand new evidence that's suddenly found. In this case, this is not brand new evidence. They've made their best argument that it's new, that it's different, that it's come about with facts that came out at trial that they could not have known in advance. But it doesn't exactly fit what you would normally see in a motion to correct error.
So what's the most egregious of the 4-point bulletins, so to speak? Is it the confession? Is it the van timeline? Is it the pretrial custody? Like, what are you seeing as the most problematic, say, for the prosecution?
I think two of them are really important. They all matter. It's not that these aren't very, very important. It's just a question of, are they going to get relief right here in this particular motion? Or is it just something that tells us what might happen down the line? And the two that really, really matter are Brad Weber and the white van.
Okay, let's talk about this. Rexy, are you diamond painting? Are you at the gym? Are you listening? Or are you resting because you're sick? Hey, Emmylou. Brad Weber and the white van. See, again, I just think there's some things that they didn't explain from the transcripts I've read that they didn't go through thoroughly. I have a lot of questions about Brad Weber. I have a lot of questions about strange comments he made at the viewing of the girls, along with Ron Logan. Listen, you go to a viewing to pay your respects. You don't make derogatory remarks about the victims. No, no, no. No, sir, you do not.
It tells us what might happen down the line. And the two that really, really matter are Brad Weber and the white van, because the change in the timeline really makes a big difference. The prosecution said that Libby's phone last moved, forever stopped moving at 2:32. It was underneath a shoe, underneath Abby's body. And so that marks the time at which the girls were in the final location where they were going to be killed. If there was no white van to be seen by Richard Allen, it really messes up the prosecution timeline. And then when it comes to Ron Logan's confession, the confession, the reason that it's mentioned in this motion is because for the first time at trial, one of the expert witnesses called it said instead of two different weapons, which had long been relied on by the defense to say, hey, there was more than one person who actually committed this murder.
And really, I think that's all anyone's asking for. Good morning, Mallory. We have a whole playlist. I think that's all anyone's asking for. I wouldn't feel safe in that community. That's just me. I wouldn't. I'd be at every town hall meeting. Every time I saw a cop at the bar, getting a cup of coffee at the local convenience store, I'd say, don't you think this case needs further investigation? There's got to be other people involved. I think it would be ridiculous just to open up the jail and say, go ahead, Richard, just go ahead and get out of here. You know, we're just going to go back to square one. Because he could very well be involved. It seems to me that he is. But what about the others?
the defense to say, hey, there was more than one person who actually committed this murder. This was a group effort. But the expert said, no, I'm convinced it's only one, and it was box cutters. And I can tell from the marks on one of the girls that it was the rubber handle of box cutters. And that those box cutters then were actually mentioned by Ron Logan in his confession. And the
Okay, some people say, well, this had to have been leaked information. And so Ron Logan just ran with it. Why would you run with leaked information and make yourself guilty? What was going on? They said he died of COVID in 2022. Had he died of a brain tumor, had he died of dementia, I'd be like, yeah, you just throw that shit right out. Just throw it out. But he died of COVID. No. He didn't have no COVID brain in 2020 when he was talking to Ricky with the neck tattoos.
box cutters, and that those box cutters then were actually mentioned by Ron Logan in his confession. And the defense is saying we couldn't have put those together because we were surprised when Dr. Kaur, the expert, mentioned this at trial.
I will be fascinated to see how this plays out. Thanks for watching. Go to.
You're welcome, Ashley. Come on. You hear through the grapevine that box cutters were involved. I'd be like, I don't even know what a box cutter is. Never seen one in my life. I use a butter knife to open my Amazon boxes. No way. No. And I can tell you right now, I could care less about these talking to the cellmate things. Talking to a cellmate. Except he knew too much. And this is all documented. That's what blows my mind. And that judge not letting in another confession. Kegan didn't testify. Kegan was communicating with Libby. Kegan was caught peeping Tomming outside of another girl's house. Him and his father hightailed it to Las Vegas. The only thing I can think of for them to make such a quick turnaround trip is that somebody had a video on their phone that they couldn't dare put on the cloud and they had to hand it to someone. Because let's face it, they didn't go see David Copperfield, okay? The Kleins are not big Celine Dion fans, okay? They didn't go to a fight. They didn't go see Britney Spears. They drove straight there and came right back.
Story. Good evening to you. I'm Bear Sean.
And I'm Dan Spieler.
And that's a long drive.
The man from Peru, Indiana, has dozens of child porn charges and has also been mentioned in the investigation into the murders of two young Delphi girls in 2017.
He appeared before a Miami County judge this morning. Fox 59's Russ McQuaid was in that courtroom as well, along with a pair of podcasters who have been investigating this case.
Kegan Kline has not been charged with any role in the deaths of Libby German and Abby Williams on the Monon High Bridge outside of Delphi in February of 2017, but investigators say he was in touch with one of the girls the night before her death.
Kline wasn't actually in the courtroom. He attended via video conferencing from the Miami County Jail, where he's been sitting since the summer of 2020. Charged with 30 counts of child pornography, child exploitation, and obstruction of justice.
Yeah, they had a lot on KK. A lot. A lot. Let's all have a round of applause for our friend Kat OG, managing mod. She solved the case. She said, when your alibi is a fish. That was awesome. I plead the fifth that it took us 4 days to drive from Indiana to Vegas. Yep, they weren't gone that long. They took turns driving and everything. Screw that noise. I'll get on shitty Frontier airline before I do that. I got to pee too much.
Of 2020, charged with 30 counts of child pornography, child exploitation, and obstruction of justice. Today's hearing was delayed because last summer his attorney asked for a postponement, telling the judge he was in, quote, negotiations with the prosecutor on the case. That was the same time Indiana State Police divers and detectives started searching the Wabash River in Peru.
At this point, our sources have not indicated that any actionable evidence was yielded from those different aspects of the investigation.
Okay, so basically, Kegan Kline is the Stacy Wandra of the case. He's all about helping, and he leads them to things that he knows. And while they find some evidence, they don't find the whole kit and caboodle. Okay?
Kline came to the attention of investigators in the days after the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German more than 5 years ago, because they linked his internet alter ego, Anthony Schatz, to Libby's social media account the night before she died. It's possible that whatever tip led Delphi detectives to look in the river was figuratively all wet, and as a result, whatever deal Kline and his attorney were working on didn't pan out during today's court hearing.
There was no talk of any plea bargain. There was no talk of any negotiations still being in progress. It was full speed ahead.
I would say that if anything was cooking in the last couple of months, it certainly has gone on the back burner at this point. Basically, this was a very terse meeting. The attorneys were just sort of very brief. No one had any questions. No one asked for any extra time.
Kline's trial on those child pornography charges is still set for mid-January. At the Miami County Courthouse, Russ McQuaid, Fox 15.
He's not getting out anytime soon. And good. We don't want people like that in our society. I've always been upset that they didn't press harder on Tony Kline. Hey, I'm not in that department. Now, this was sent to me by one of you amazing, amazing people with all of the agencies involved. All of the agencies involved in the horrific murders of Abby and Libby. They say this woman is the one that cracked the case. We also heard the story about they had a temp from the FBI that pulled a file and said, we need to talk to Richard Allen again. Well, I consider myself a temp for the FBI on the daily. But they're saying she's the one that cracked the case. What the hell is going on here? We already heard a detective saying that he Google searched something. Hell, she do. Use some of Ziggy's tarot cards. They're like, she's a hero. I'm like, what?
Obviously, in the trial, I heard your testimony and the passion and the time, and I hear everybody else talking about the time, and even you being so humble of this is a team effort, you know?
Absolutely.
What was it like for you to be a part of this? I mean, obviously, you talked about it in trial, about how you came back and you wanted to volunteer. Why was that so important?
Shaboogies said Kathy's daughter, another Kathy. Hey, that girl James, I've missed you. You need to get a hold of me because I need a Memorial Day wreath. You just disappeared on me. Sorry, off topic. Squirrel. Shaboogie said Kathy Shank's daughter, after the verdict, publicly said they did Ron Logan proud. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. About shit a brick on that one. I'm going to go ahead and give Shaboogies the comment of the day. How many people in town were on that old crusty pogo stick? The ladies seem to really like Ron Logan.
I had worked with law enforcement my entire adult career for 40 years through Department of Child Services, through Child Protection. And I knew several of the law enforcement officers, the prosecutor at the time, Rob Ives. And when I learned of this, I contacted Rob and said I'd like to help.
And that is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'd like to help too. I call the police and say I'd like to help. They're like, kind of like, Detective Pruitt in, Rogersville, Tennessee. We're taking applications every day. You can go to the police academy and make $14.25 an hour. That's the kind of response I get. But because she worked for Child Protective Services, I don't live in Indiana. She got Employee of the Month at Child Protective Services in Indiana. Is there any issues with Child Protective Services in Indiana? Because I've heard Gary, Indiana is a shitstorm. Hero. Cue Mariah Carey. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on. Kathy, you're the hero.
Is exactly what you did. I mean, so much. Your role, obviously, we know from your testimony, helping file and organize and do all the things that need to be done in order for an investigation to kind of stay organized, if you will, the organizational side of things. When you were moving offices and you opened up that drawer and you came across this box, what went through your mind? And where, obviously, we know where it ended.
What kind of paperwork system do we have around there? She just happened to come across a box and said, maybe we need to look at this.
But what went through your mind?
When I found that, I realized that I had not heard of this person.
Is this common? I really need to know. Is this common that files that are an important part of a case, that anybody in the office can just pull it and start solving crimes? They would love it here in my town if I showed up and said, let me see the files. Y'all need some fresh eyes. I turned my neighbor in, so I'm qualified as law enforcement.
Where it ended. But what went through your mind?
When I found that, I realized that I had not heard of this person. And I went to the file drawer and found the actual file for Richard Allen Whiteman at that time, as it had been written. And I read the report that Dan Doolin had made after he had spoken with him. And I, as being an investigator, I had looked at some of the statements from the girls that said they had seen a person out at the bridge. And basically, I put the two and two together, took it to Tony, and we went from there.
Outside.
The fuck is going on there? Okay. And then we went from there. I just came across one dusty old file. Just like that old crusty pogo stick, Ron Logan, who I think everybody had a turn on. And they said, the woman who cracked the case. What the hell? Where is Rexy? Rexy, are you diamond painting or are you listening to this? Because this is driving me bonkers.
Outside of this, you're a member of this community for so long.
Absolutely, my entire life, yes.
What does it mean to you to be able to see all of this come to where we are today? One, misfiled report, if you will, leads to all these years of work being able to pile together. We talk a lot about all the evidence just was able to stack up. And then the final pieces of this is the guy. What is it like for you to see not only the guilty verdict on that day last month, but today to hear the sentence of 130 years?
The justice has been served. I mean, there was an amazing team that worked on this. I mean, Jerry and...
According to you, Kathy, you're the team. You're the team. You came across the box. You came across that file and said, we need to look at him again. I do not disagree. I think Richard Allen needed to be looked at. I totally do. I totally do. Do you believe in this case that there is true justice? That it was Richard only, and no one else is involved? Dead or alive, no one else is involved. I'm just not getting the feeling of closure.
And all of the state police and all the other agencies, and I have such high regard. And I guess what I can best say is I got back a lot more than I ever gave.
Obviously, you hear all these people talking about you. Every person calling you out, thanking you.
It's very humbling, very humbling. I did it because I like to serve. I like to help people, and that's what I did.
And right place, right time, right?
I guess I basically call it divine intervention.
Yeah, you were just there, open that drawer. You just so happened to be the person.
I love the interviewer. She goes, yeah, I just happened to come across it. Stuck out like a gold Easter egg right in front of me. Right in front of me. She's like, yeah, and you just happen to be the person. Listen to that again. She's actually being sarcastic with her, and I'm digging it. And you just happen to be that person.
I like to serve. I like to help people, and that's what I did.
And right place, right time, right?
I guess I basically call it divine intervention.
Yeah.
Divine intervention? That somebody put a file in your way? Really? All right, Lollipop. Come on. Come on. Come on. Divine intervention, find in a file? Okay, we have 2 comments of the day. Meerkamp, you get it as well. She said maybe Ron Logan came across her box too. Damn, Kathy.
I guess I basically call it divine intervention.
Yeah, you were just there, open that drawer. You just so happened to be the person.
Just happened to be the person. She's shaking her head. Nope, nobody showed me where it was. You're right. Yep.
What was finally last thing? Obviously, it went so long. So many people. I mean, 8 years almost that you're, this community. Like, please, we have all these things. We have video evidence of this suspect, and we still don't have the person. What was that like for you to be able to see law enforcement and investigators kind of finish putting that puzzle together after waiting for so long?
It was amazing, and it was. And I think I told Jerry it was a well-oiled machine. I couldn't believe I had worked up to the arrest in my former profession, but I had never seen this, and it was amazing what they did. And they just went into action and did what needed to be done, and here we are today.
Good afternoon. Today is day 5 at the Delphi.
That's one stinky box. Sir, I didn't mean to snort. I'm laughing too hard. Woo! That is one stinky box. Okay? I think the only one that could tell us about it is Ron Logan. He's not here to tell us. That's one stinky box. Yeah. And divine intervention, and she just happened to be the one that came across it. So again, put a 1 in chat if you think more people are involved. Put a 2 in chat if you think, nope, done, over. Done. That's it. We don't care about mud in the cell phone. We don't care about the impossibility staging the bodies. It's Richard Allen alone, and somehow Stinky Box just happened to come across the right file, and Ron Logan just happened to know about a box cutter and DNA lacking. They also still use something called fingerprints. Okay? It's not that outdated. They still use something called fingerprints. This is nuts. There's got to be more people involved. Or as Doug Carter said, this case has many tentacles. Tentacles. Well, speaking of tentacles, we have another show tomorrow. Y'all gonna be back tomorrow? You gonna be back tomorrow? 9 a.m. Central? I'm gonna leave the box jokes out unless Mirror Camp gets me going again. This is actually a good point, Kimberly Man. If he's innocent, then why not speak out? You know how many people would be in line to speak to him and get his side of the story? That's a really good point. Yeah, you guys are blowing my mind today. Thank you so much for people that have come back. I know a lot of you have been sick. For all the Crime Lines and Lies memberships. And just being the amazing, awesome people that you are. You have to admit, we have the best mod squad ever. Correctamundo? Yeah, I think I'm correct. Not biased. Not biased. So I'll see you back here at 9 a.m. And thank you again for being the best friends, the best chat, and the best community on the gutter of the internet, which is known as YouTube.